Welcome to today's video, where we're going to be taking a brief look at one of the prettiest tank watches ever made. Now, with tank watches, you normally think of Cartier or, there's a bunch of other manufacturers who've made really good-looking tank watches. Tank watches obviously comes from the Cartier watch from the 1920s. Then there was, there have been so anyway, to break down a tank watch, it's just a rectangular watch with an extremely elegant dial. And of all the watches I have, I would say this Raymond Weil Saxo is really the prettiest of all the tank watches I have. So what makes this so pretty? Well, one of the things that makes this tank so unique is the fact that it has a rectangular dial that's not very rectangular. It's almost square but just slightly rectangular. And you can see that the circle where the numbers are, it stretches edge to edge on the horizontal face, but on the vertical face it pulls out a little bit. So it's not extremely rectangular, but it has the right proportions. Not square, but just enough rectangle. Obviously, as you can see, the watch has a nice curved face to it. So the crystal is not a flat crystal, it follows the curve of the watch face. As it breaks down on the side, it doesn't have a flat edge. The edges actually bevel down in almost like the edge of a Rolls-Royce Phantom or any 1930s Art Deco car. And then that blends into the lugs. So the lugs and the watch case become very well integrated. I had to quickly polish the watch because it was just too smudged. Now let's talk about the dial. So there is obviously no second hand because this is a dress watch. You have there's an hour hand and a minute hand, which are a metallic blue, so it really contrasts with the white silver color of the dial. You have pinstripes, which then transform into these circular arcs that are inscribed where the numbers are. The hour markers are all in Roman numerals, which are printed, and you can see the imprint of the grooves, those circular grooves come through the printing of the numbers. There is a date at the 6 o'clock mark. It just happens to show 6 o'clock. And then there is a brushed finish. So there's the flat area, which in this case looks kind of shiny, but it's really not. It's actually brushed. And then you have a crosshatch, which then defines the edge of the watch. So basically that border crosshatch, it takes three textured patterns. You have the pinstripe, you have the arcs, and then you have a crosshatch. They really harmonize very well, and they play with light in an extremely nice way. Obviously, the edge of the bezel has a reflective, the edge of the case has a reflective finish, so you can see reflections of the numbers based on the angle that you're in. But the light plays so well off the surface because depending on whichever angle you're in, there will always be some element of the dial that will harmonize and reflect that light really well. So out in this angle, you can see that the pinstripes start coming through, but then if I change the angle slightly, wherever those grooves are, they start reflecting the light, making it super shiny, but making the numbers stand out because they are the painted black numbers. And then when you're looking at head-on, the polished surface of the brushed polished surface stands out. And then at any angle, the border around that crosshatch border, it stands out. But then again, it very dynamically interacts with that circular number disc because it overlaps this crosshatched border. So there is a nice interplay between the crosshatched border and the dial where my numbers are. And in the midst of all these bluish, almost gunmetal blue hour and minute markers, they just stand out in their own right. And not only that, then they have, because they have their open area, they taper out, kind of like swords. They allow you to see the dial through the hour and minute markers as it plays, as they move around the watch. It's just in terms of movements, again, I should polish this because I wear this watch. It does get smudged. This is just a 9110 Raymond Weil, which is a very standard quartz movement. Raymond Weil is trying to keep its costs down by not putting a mechanical movement and just putting a quartz movement in this, and that's okay with me. You know, dress watches don't have second hands typically, so there's little point in having a mechanical movement or a quartz movement in dress watches, because you anyway don't get to see the smooth sweep of the second hands on a dress watch. Raymond Weil does make these in mechanical movements, but they are a lot more expensive. Obviously, the bracelet is a solid end clasp, and it does have a very interesting closing mechanism where it just pops in. There is no spring-loaded clasp. It just pops in. And then, you know, you have this very nice bracelet that, again, is extremely elegant. It's unfortunate they put the name, or they put their initials RW on one end of the bracelet, because I wish it was just symmetrical and smooth. But, you know, Raymond Weil is not a very old company, and they have to try to establish themselves. For those of you who are familiar with Raymond Weil, you'd realize most of their watches have a musical name. So you have Saxo and, you know, a whole bunch of other names that are somehow or the other connected to music. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on another video.